You and Deputy O'Loughlin conclude?
Yes, I'll be sharing time with Deputy O'Loughlin.
Okay.
Minister, I have to first say that I'm extremely disappointed at the tone of the government response and rejection of this bill, and to have the Minister deliver such a scathing response to what is a very well-intentioned bill supported by opposition parties in this House, and then to walk out of the chamber without listening to a single response is very insulting to those of us that actually are passionate about this bill and the implications that we believe, the positive implications we believe it will have for women in this country. And I just want to go through the Minister's response and deal with a couple of the concerns raised. First and foremost, we are not seeking to reduce maternity entitlements. We are seeking to add flexibility to current entitlements to allow parents to share what is already there. It's already there. There is no cost to the Exchequer. Why not give parents the choice? Let them decide what is best for them. As the Minister said, she doesn't want to take away a mammy's special time with her baby. I think that language is sensationalist. I think it is populist. Nobody is seeking to do that. I'm not sure is she referring to mothers, to their partners, to their employers, because certainly that's not what we are seeking to do. And if anybody seeks to force a woman against her will to go back to work before she is ready, then that should be a criminal offence and that should be dealt with properly. But certainly that is not the suggestion from anybody on this side of the House. And if she were here, I would say that to the Minister directly. To suggest that somehow maternity leave will become a commodity subject to negotiations, again, I'd have to agree with Deputy O'Sullivan, who made the point very eloquently. This idea that women somehow need to be covered in cotton wool and protected from their partners, protected from their employers. We are well able to protect ourselves, but what we want is flexibility and a choice in existing legislation to allow us to direct our own futures, our own family life, and to make the decisions that are right for us. Because right now, we don't have that choice. If you've given birth and you are entitled to maternity leave, either you take the full 6 months or whatever you don't take is lost to the family. If you choose to go back to work sooner, you simply just must pay for childcare sooner because the dad or the other partner can't take it. And the Minister did absolutely nothing to address the circumstances for a woman that is self-employed, owns her own business or is in political life. What do women in those situations do? I think Deputy Robert Troy made a very good point. Women can often feel under pressure themselves because they are seeking to maybe advance in career, they want to get back to work. That's their own choice. But there's extra pressure put on when you have to think about the fact, OK, I have to pay for childcare now because I want to go back to work sooner. I'd like to go back to work sooner, but I can't even ask my partner to take the remainder of that leave because it's not that flexibility, that choice is not there. To deal with the EU directive, first and foremost, the requirement is that 14 weeks be made available, but only 2 weeks must be taken. We are absolutely open to an amendment to give effect to that. Any of the issues around the legislation and the implications on domestic legislation can be adequately dealt with through amendments, as is the case for any other bill that has come through this House. I want to thank Sinn Féin and Labour and Deputies Louise O'Reilly and Deputy Dan O'Sullivan who spoke in favour of this bill and clearly gave it some thought and can see the intention of the bill and want to see this bill progressed and brought through the House. Both deputies expressed, I think, dismay at the level of the tone and the level of rejection from the Minister before she exited the chamber, without really, in my view, giving due regard and consideration to what has been proposed. This idea that there's been a lack of consultation, I mean, is every bill before this House subject to a public consultation process? I think not. And why should it be? This is the House for consultation. We can discuss this together. And the Minister even questioned whether there was a demand for this or whether there was an issue. The very fact that we have a situation where the woman either takes the full leave or doesn't get it at all, and that the father or the other partner is only entitled to 2 weeks, clearly there's an imbalance that does not adequately reflect a modern, progressive society. And in terms of levelling the playing field, Deputy O'Reilly made this point as well. There's no doubt in my mind that when a woman goes into an interview, she is treated differently than the male attendee at that interview if it's perceived that she is more likely to take that maternity leave than her male colleague. So that's just the reality and the facts of life. And yes, we have legislation to protect against that, but you can't prove it. We know it happens. Any woman of childbearing age going to an interview at this point in their lives will tell you that they think about this. They're worried about this. They're taking off their engagement rings. They're afraid that they'll be treated differently and discriminated against because they might take the time off. And isn't the big elephant in the room when the Minister talks about the issues around employers and it might be more difficult for them to get 3 months cover as opposed to 6 months cover? What absolute, utter nonsense. Isn't it the reality in the room? The difficulty here is that if a company has a policy of topping up maternity leave, it's far more expensive to top up a salary that's higher, isn't it? And we know about the gender pay gap. So it's going to actually cost businesses a little bit more to top up men that might take time out. And maybe it'll make it a bit more uncomfortable for them to actually facilitate their male employees taking time out. But so be it. Because that's not the concern in this House. The concern in this House is that we should be moving towards an equal situation where women have the choice to direct their own futures and do not need to be wrapped in cotton wool. I sincerely hope, Minister, that you'll bring back the comments from this House tonight to Minister Doherty, because up until the vote next Thursday, there is time to at least facilitate this bill moving forward, allow for consultation with other deputies and parties in this House. We are open to amendments to make this bill work.